The boy who could bring his paintings to life was known only as Ethan. He was a painfully shy kid who preferred spending his days painting in his room rather than playing outside. One day, he went to an antique shop filled with dusty old things and bought a worn-out paintbrush for $10. It didn't look like much, but once he started painting with it, he realized it had magical properties. Whatever he painted came to life. At first, he was just amazed by its power. He painted a bird and it flew away, a flower and it bloomed. But then he started to get darker ideas. He painted gloomy landscapes and watched as the colors drained from the world around him. He painted faceless figures and saw the joy fade from people's eyes. He didn't know it at the time, but the brush was feeding off his negative emotions, growing stronger with every stroke. Soon he was too scared to paint anything bright and beautiful, afraid of what it might do. But one day, he had an idea. If the brush took my sadness and turned it into reality, then maybe it would also take my happiness. So he spent weeks planning his ultimate masterpiece, a painting so full of light and hope that it would banish the darkness from the world. He worked tirelessly, putting every ounce of happiness he had into his art. And when he was finally done, he stepped back to admire his creation. It was a beautiful landscape, filled with vibrant colors and joyful figures. There was a small cottage surrounded by lush greenery. In the distance, there was a river flowing over sparkling waterfalls, and in the sky, birds were singing and clouds were dancing. He took a deep breath, and with a trembling hand, he brought the brush to the canvas. As he painted, he felt a sense of calm wash over him. The brush seemed to be taking his emotions without resistance. He finished the painting and stepped back. It was perfect. With a smile on his face, he hung the painting on the wall. And as he did, he felt the darkness lift from his heart. Looking out the window, he saw the sun shining through the clouds. The flowers in the garden were blooming, and in the sky, the birds were singing. He had brought color and happiness back to the world. But as he basked in the newfound beauty of the world, he felt a sharp pain in his chest. Looking down, he saw the paintbrush lying on the ground, drained of all its magic. He had given the brush everything he had, and now it was time for him to disappear. As the light from his painting filled the world, he faded away, leaving behind only his art and the legend of the boy who changed the world with a brush. They called him Ethan. This is the story of a boy who could bring his paintings to life. It's about a boy named Ethan who was as shy as he was creative. He loved nothing more than painting, but his confidence never allowed him to sell his art or even show it to others. But one day, he found an antique shop filled with old, dusty art supplies. And among them, he found a worn-out brush that whispered to him, promising him artistic abilities beyond his wildest dreams. And as any magical story goes, the moment Ethan touched the brush, his life changed. At first, it was just a subtle shift. His paintings took on a life of their own, becoming real, breathing creatures that interacted with the world. Overjoyed, Ethan began painting everything he saw, filling his room with whimsical creations. But as time passed, he started to notice something unsettling. The world outside his window began to change, too. The vibrant colors of the city seemed to fade, replaced by a dull, washed-out palette. People's faces, once full of smiles and laughter, now wore expressions of gloom and despair. It was as if the joy was being drained out of the world, leaving behind only emptiness and melancholy. Confused and scared, Ethan continued to paint, hoping to fix the world he'd broken. Yet with each stroke the colors grew more muted, the smiles more faded. That's when he realized the truth. The brush wasn't just magical, it was feeding off his emotions, taking the vibrancy from his paintings and transplanting it onto the real world, twisting it into a reflection of his own inner turmoil. Faced with this horrifying discovery, Ethan was torn. Should he destroy the brush and risk losing his newfound powers forever, or should he continue to paint, hoping to find a way to stop the bleeding of joy from the city? In a moment of inspiration or perhaps desperation, Ethan decided to paint a masterpiece, a grand finale that would encompass all the light and hope he had left in his heart. He painted a world so beautiful, so full of wonder and joy, that as he worked, he felt the colors returning to the sky, the laughter returning to the streets. As the last stroke hit the canvas, the world outside his window exploded into a riot of color and sound. The people he'd painted smiled, truly smiled, their eyes twinkling with the light of 1,000 suns. With his final act of courage, Ethan had saved the world, but not without a cost. As the colors returned to the city, Ethan disappeared, leaving behind only his paintings and his name, whispered in awe by those who knew him as the boy who could bring his paintings to life. And that, dear friends, is the end of our story today. If you like this story, please leave a like and comment down below. We'll see you next time.